Welcome back. Hope everyone is doing well. This is my pre-Lag BaOmer look. Hair's a little longer. Beard is still not really there. Still not really where I want it to be. Okay, we're going to begin. We're going to tell two short stories. But first, we're going to introduce those stories with a well-known Mishnah in Pirkei Avos and an explanation of that Mishnah that I saw earlier today from Rabbi Daniel Kalish, who's a wonderful Rebbe in the Waterbury, maybe he's the Rosh Yeshiva of the Waterbury Yeshiva in Connecticut. I've heard him speak many times, and he gives a fabulous understanding of a line in the Mishnah that I think we probably took for granted or learned on a level that was a little bit more simplistic than it should have been. Arba midos ba'adam. The Mishnah in the fifth parak Pirkei Avos tells us Arba midos ba'adam, that there are four different midos that a person can have. It doesn't mean in all midos. It's talking in one specific area, in the area of ownership and giving and chesed and this and that. Four different types of people. There's the first person, and the Mishnah delineates each type of person. Ha'omer, there's the person who believes, who says, Shali shali, what's mine is mine, v'shelcha shelcha, and what's yours is yours. Zu, the Mishnah says, now the Mishnah is going to have a call. It's going to judge what the Mishnah thinks about each type of person. So if you're the type of person who says what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours, there's a midah beinonis. You're like a parv type of midah. That, your stuff is your stuff, my stuff is my stuff. I'm going to live on my side of the street. Yours, let's all just, yours is yours, mine is mine. That person's a regular person, a beinoni in the middle. What about the second type of person? Shali shelcha v'shelcha shali. Shali shelcha, what's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. That person's an Amma Aretz. That there's no ownership in the world, that you can use any of my things, I can use any of your things, not a kibbutz, right? The world is not a kibbutz. Shali shelcha v'shelcha, that person's just ignorant. It's not bad, just ignorant. It's not necessarily the way of the world. What about Shali shelcha v'shelcha shelcha? What about what's mine is yours, and what's yours is yours? Mishnah says that person's a chassid, that person's a pious, holy individual, right? Because everything, I don't have ownership over my things. You can always use my things. I'm this biggest bal chesed in the world. But yours is yours. Yours is yours. You keep your stuff. I don't need your stuff. You can always take mine, and I'm never going to take yours. And finally, sheli sheli, what's mine is mine. V'shelcha, and what's yours is also sheli. I have everything. Mine is mine. I'm not sharing with you. And yours is also mine. That person's a Rasha, obvious. That person's a Rasha. That person's a selfish, egotistical person. So, amazingly, Rabbi Kalish wants to understand this Mishnah in an amazing way. We said earlier when we were understanding the Mishnah, we said that you know why the person's a chassid who says shali shalcha b'shalcha shalcha. It's because it's all about me being a giving bal chesed. So he introduces this Mishnah by saying that a person, and this is a very, very crucial idea in life, a person naturally believes that other people believe the way that he does. Meaning for example, I believe that people should be on time. And that's an important midah in my family, or at least for me in particular, right? So I believe that should be an important value for every single person. A person naturally believes that other people think the same way as he or she does. Therefore, if I believe what's mine is mine, right? So I'll naturally believe that what's yours is yours, right? I believe that, I have my ownership and you have your ownership. So I'm not going to expect other people to share. Mine is mine, yours is yours. Similarly, if I believe that what's mine is yours, so I'm going to also believe that there's no ownership and everyone should be sharing and it should be kumbaya, like utopian lifestyle. So then I'm going to also believe that yours is mine. So what's the greatness of what's mine is yours and yours is yours? Is that really a person is going against their natural tendency. A person is going against their nature. They're combating what they like, what their innate nature tells them. Since a person's natural tendency is to treat other people, Rabbi Kalish says, to treat other people the way he would expect to be treated, when someone requests or someone expects something of us that we feel is wrong on their part, we need to always keep in mind that they would likely have no problem if someone would do the same. They don't mean to be offensive. They're just seeing things from a different perspective. So if we would see time, if we would use the example of time again, so what does that mean? What does that look like? If someone's not, I value time. I try to be. When someone's late, oh my gosh, they don't believe. They don't value my time. They're disrespecting me. They don't like it. They don't like what we're doing. They don't value what we're doing or who am I, right? No, another person, just time might not be of value to them. And therefore, I have all this resentment that's conjured up in my mind that I can't stand this person and this and that, right? But ultimately, it's not a value of theirs. And because it's not a value of theirs at all, they're not doing anything really, really wrong. So how does Reb Kalish read that beautiful line of the Mishnah? Shali shelcha v'shelcha shelcha chassid. Why is that person a chassid? Because if I'm a person who believes shali shelcha, that's what mine is yours, so I should also think that what's yours is mine. But no, I'm going to go, I have two combating, values, and I'm going to go against my nature. I'm going to go against what my natural inclination or my proclivity is. And what am I going to say? No, shelcha shelcha, you keep also what yours is. And that idea of that a person believes, just we need to understand what our nature is, and that the lifeblood, or like this, the mission of life. He actually writes in the sefer called Olam Amidos, V'zehu chovas ha'adam. The responsibility, the obligation of a person is latzeit mi'olamo, to leave his world. Sorry, latzeit mi'olamo hatzar, to leave his narrow world, his narrow perspective. V'lilmod u'lahavin da'ato shel hazulat, and to learn and understand the das, the perception or the perspective of the other person. We have to, before we judge, before we engage, before we get angry, before we react to another person, we have to really think about where are they coming from, and who are they, and what are their natural inclinations and natural tendencies and their nature and their natural proclivities. So let's look at a Gemara. We're going to look at first a Gemara at the very, very end of the 9th Perek Rabbi Eliezer. This is in Maseches Nedarim. So the Gemara is going to tell a story about a man named Bava ben Buta. Bava ben Buta was a Tana, a very early Tana. He was a Talmud of Shammai, Hillel and Shammai. He was a Talmud of Shammai. There's a very famous Gemara, which maybe we'll look at another week, in the beginning of Bava Basra, where that the second Beis Hamikdash was absolutely magnificent. It was the Beis Hamikdash that King Herod built, and part of the reason for its grandeur and for how beautiful and gorgeous it was because of a conversation that took place between Herod and Bava ben Buta. So a person, as we know, is obligated to see beyond one's own, as we've established, one's own narrow perspective, to learn, to understand the viewpoints of others, because if not, resentment will take place. So the Gemara says, Hahu bar Bavel, the Salik la'aradi Yisrael nasiv itasa. So there was this certain Babylonian man who left Bavel, and he went to find a wife in Eretz Yisrael. Maybe the women in Eretz Yisrael, maybe that's the greatest thing, to marry an Israeli woman. My wife happens to think that Floridian women are the best, but this Babylonian man went to Eretz Yisrael to find a wife. Amar lo, but obviously the Gemara doesn't tell us about their courtship, but I guess they get married. He meets somebody, they get married. Amar lo, bashili li trei talfe. Would you please cook for me, tray, two lentils. Bashili li trei talfe. What does she do? What does this amazing Israeli wife do? She cooks him 2 lentils, exactly 2. So what's his reaction? Rasachala. He becomes very, very angry with her. L'machar. The next day, what happens? Amar la. She says to him, and she took him completely literally. He got super angry. So l'machar. The next day, Amar la bashili li griva. Why don't you cook for me like griva, like a full measure, a ton of lentils? So what does she do? Bashila le griva. She again takes him literally and cooks him an entire full measure of lentils, right? Which was much, much more than he could ever eat, which was obviously a waste. Amar la. He then goes and he says to her, and he's obviously fuming, he's super duper angry. He says to her, Amar la, Zili aisili tre butsine. I want you to go and please bring me 2 butsene. Please bring me two melons. What does she do? Zili aitili tre butsine. She goes, Ozlos va'aisi la tre strage. She goes and she brings him 2 lamps, right? He asks for melons. he wants melons. She brings him lambs. But in Aramaic, butsine is the same word for lamp as well as for melons. It's interesting because maybe she misunderstood them. Some of the Mefarshim say what the Gemara is saying is because she was Israeli and he was Babylonian. They didn't the communication was a little bit messed up. But he is very, very angry, right? This is the third thing that in his mind he feels that she messed up in, right? The first time was the 2 lentils. She managed to cook some 2 lentils. Then a full measure, she cooks him a ton, much, much more than he'll ever be able to eat. Then he asks for 2 melons, and she brings back two lamps. So what does he do? Amarle, he's not excited about these lamps. He doesn't want them. Zili tavre yason al reisha de bava. I want you to go and break these lamps at the top of the doorway. The bava is a doorway. So what does she do? Go break these lamps at the top of the doorway. Havayasi Bava ben Buta. At this time, it happened that Bava ben Buta was judging. He was sitting and judging Bava ben Buta. Bava dina. So what is she? He's trying this case at this doorway, and what does she do? She takes the lamps and she breaks the 2 lamps on Bava. Bava means doorway, not on the regular doorway which he should have broken on, but Bava ben Buta, on the great Bava ben Buta. Imagine this man, Bava ben Buta, spoke to Herod. He was a champion of the Jewish people against King Herod. He was a tremendous time. He heard Shiur from Shammai. And this lady takes these 2 lamps and she breaks them over the head. Right? So what is it? What are you doing? Right? Bava says to Esther, what do you do? Amrale, she says back to him, Kach tzivani bali. This is what my husband commanded, or my husband, asked me to do. Amar, Bava ben Buta, he's got whatever all over himself. He's dirty, he's embarrassed, it's gross. He says to this woman, he says, Amar, ata sitritzon balech. You did, right? You unquestionably fulfilled the will, the ratzon of your husband. So you know what? Hamakom yotzi mimeich shnei vanim kevava ben Buta. May the Holy One, may Hamakom, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's one of the ways that we refer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu bless you and bring forth for you 2 sons like Bava ben Buta. So it's a little bit of a weird bracha. He obviously knows that he's a tremendous tzaddik and a wonderful, wonderful person. But the blessing is that this woman should be able to have children, to have at least 2 children, probably for the 2 lamps that are like Bava ben Buta. If you look at the story, right, weird story. The contrast between the woman's husband and Bava ben Buta is completely startling. The husband doesn't give any thought to any of her actions, doesn't even ask why she acted the way she does. He just gets angry. He simply assumes that she was probably trying to defy him, and therefore what happens? He becomes angry with her. But Bava ben Buta, on the other hand, in contrast to her husband, gave thought. What spurred him to ask why she acted the way she did, right? This is a weird thing to do. 2 lentils, break the lamp, this and that. Bava ben Buta was a thoughtful person, so he wanted to get to the bottom. Why did you do this? What were you trying to do? Once he understood that, he not only didn't get angry with her, but he gives her a blessing, right? Hamakom, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should bless you with 2 people that are like Bava ben Buta. So you see, and this is what the Mishnah teaches us, right? That Bava ben Buta didn't judge very, very quickly. He wanted to see, where's this person coming from? I have to understand her nature, who she is, what she is. And that's why the Mishnah says very famously, V'habi danet kol ha'adam lekavschus. That if you would just translate the line, it's you should judge every person positively, with merit. You should give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, obviously, it has to be measured. It has to be in the right way. If a person just got out of jail for the second time for 10 years for being a shiesty businessman, and they want to come into a business event, some type of a business deal with me, do I have to say, I don't believe any of that? I'm going to get into this business deal? No, of course not. I don't have to be ignorant about it. But in cases where I could look at the bigger picture, so then I am commanded to do so. The Sfas Emes, and many more than the Sfas Emes, pick up at a line. It doesn't say you have to judge every person. It's v'havei done et kol ha'adam, all of the person, the entire person. You have to look at everything. You have to see the entire picture. Before I judge someone for doing something, I have to see where are they coming from, who are they, what are they like, what's their, right, where are they coming from, and I have to try to take everything under consideration as to why the kid is misbehaving that way. My friend didn't call me. There's so many different things, right, that I can't just say, oh, they didn't call me, they don't like me, or they're late, this. I have to kind of think of the whole picture. What do they value? What do they believe? Is that a value to them? And maybe once I see that, right, once I understand that, I'll realize that, no, they probably were acting towards me, or they might have been acting towards me in this way because of either reason number 1, 2, 3, or 4. We see this in a different story about Ula. Ula was an Amora. Ula was, I think, a second generation Amora. He lived predominantly in Eretz Yisrael, but he would go back and forth to Bavel. So very often you have in the Gemara, you'll have Ki Asa Ula, when Ula came. Here, we don't have that language, which you do see a lot in Shas. We have a different language. The language here is Ula Ikla LeBavel. Ula came to Bavel. So sometimes you have Ki Asa Ula, because he was coming to Bavel. Here you have Ula Ikla, he came to Bavel. So let's see what happens here. And once again, we're speaking about perspective taking, getting out of our narrow perspective, having a little bit more of an expansive perspective on other people and situations, and judging the whole person, or looking at the whole person before we judge. So he says, Ula Ikla Bavel, we came to Bavel, and what did he see? Chazi melotzana de tamri bezuzi. While he was there, he was probably in the market, he saw that a basket full of tamri, of dates, right, with a whole basket, you could sell for just a zuz, right? You could sell for just a zuz, or you could buy an entire basket of dates simply for a zuz. Amar, Ula said, like to himself, and wondering, Milot sana deduvsha bezuza. Here he says he's now he's in the Gemara. He stopped calling them dates. He's called them honey, because very often one of the main things that we get from dates is honey. Usually in Tanakh, as well in the Gemara, when we're talking about honey, we're not usually speaking about bee honey. We're talking about date honey. So Ula says, almost like in wonderment, in amazement to himself, Milot sana deduvsha bezuza. A basket full of honey sells for only a zuz. And then he says, Ubavloi la'oski baraisa. And the Babylonians, right? The Babylonians, the Babylon, they still don't occupy themselves. They still don't learn Torah all the time. They don't learn Torah as much as they should, right? Even though we know that a lot of the Babylonians were very learned and very steeped in Torah, right? As the Gemara is going to tell us in the next line, right? They would also work a little bit. They would spend time trying to make money. But Ula felt that this was really unwarranted. Why? If everything was so cheap, they don't need to make so much money. They could devote even more time to learning. So Ula, at first in the Gemara, is very, very critical of the Babylonians. But Torah addresses everything. So here we go. What happens? He obviously buys some of these dates, and he enjoys some of these dates. And here we go. Bilelia tziaruha. But at night, Lila at night, they afflicted him. They affected him negatively. What does it mean? What does it mean, tziarua? So if we look in the Rashi, right, what does tziarua mean? B'shilshul. If we know what shilshul is diarrhea, right? So at night, he was up all night. His stomach hurt. He was bilele tziaru, from eating all of these dates. Amar. So what does Ula say at night? He's lying in bed, or maybe he's not lying in bed. He's in another room in his house. He says, "Melotzana de sakina bezuza," right? A basket full of knives. Sakina is a knife. A basket full of knives sells for a zuz. What is he saying? Meaning, even for a little bit of money, you could really, really hurt yourself, right? He says, "Ubavlei aski ba'oraisa," and still, nevertheless, what happens? The Babylonians find it possible to occupy themselves and to learn Torah. So Ula, in the end, what the Gemara is saying is he really marveled at their ability to study at all. They were eating dates. It was very cheap. It was cheap food. They got it. Everybody had it, right? So this Gemara, what's this Gemara doing? It's conveying the lesson that often what appears to be a negative quality in a person actually, after some thought and some understanding and viewed in the proper context, it actually appears to be a positive attribute, a positive midah. The idea that they were able, what I guess the dates did to their digestive system, Ula was like, whoa, once I experienced that, when I understood that, really I have a greater picture of a person's life, and I see that really that it was an amazingly positive midah of the Babylonians to be able to learn Torah, even though they were a little bit in a precarious situation with some of the foods that they eat. So we saw two stories. One story above ben Buta, and the second story of Ula. But the idea here is, as we approach Lag BaOmer and approach, right, we know the Gemara in Yevamos tells us, which we studied together, is that there were 12,000 pairs of students of Rabbi Akiva, and they all died beperek echad, 24,000 students. And what was the reason that the Gemara gives? Shelo nahagu kavod zeh bazeh. That there is that they didn't act with respect. They didn't act with kavod one to the other. And one of the greatest just ways of respecting other people is just not to be impetuous in our judgments of other people. When someone does something that we think that we don't like, rubs us the wrong way, before we get to that place, we have to say what could be going through that person's mind. Why is it that I seem to be the person who's always calling them and they're never calling in me? They're calling me. Why are they not invested in this relationship? Why is it I think this person doesn't learn enough? This person doesn't keep Shabbos enough. This person doesn't volunteer enough. This person doesn't come early enough to shul. Whatever it is that we judge others about in our own lives, and it could be in our homes, it could be with our spouses, it could be with our parents, it definitely could be with our in-laws, it could be with our friends, it could be with whatever it is. We have to take that time to try to see, get out of our narrow perspective, see the more expansive, broad view, look at what could life be to that person, and ultimately we'll be more positive people, we'll be more optimistic, we'll judge people in a favorable light. May we all have a wonderful, wonderful week. We should finally get healthy. We should see each other soon in shul. Have a great week. Bye-bye.